What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissom, and with me, as always, is my main man, Mr. David Fuchs. David, I'm fired up because I love
Yeah.
this topic. You know, I
Oh,
love
all
this
right. All
topic.
right. All right. I didn't realize you love this topic that much. So,
I
but
love this topic.
if you're excited, then I'm excited.
I'll tell you why I love this topic because so many people, like in assessment sessions, quote it back to me, and it's always kind of fun, but also a little weird hearing
Wait, what
you
do you mean they quote it back to you?
like they'll say, I watched this seven
Ah,
is better than 10. And I was like, that really hit home for me. And it's always kind of weird to hear that, but it's also really fun to hear people kind of
that's good. I mean, that's great. That means you're having an impact.
so I like that. You know what, David? Well, we should redo the intro. And I'm gonna call you the impactful David Fuchs.
Well, yeah, it's your. All right, there you go. Fine.
Should we tell people what seven is better
Well,
than
you go. It's your episode. It's your show today.
10?
I actually didn't. I mean, I know but I didn't realize you love the topic that much. So go ahead.
Well, you learn something new about me all the time, David.
That's
Like to keep, like I said, I like to keep a little mystery in our relationship.
right.
So let me talk about why seven is better than 10. In the CFP world, we know there is tons and tons and tons of information. And for most students, if you are working in any capacity, full time, part time, you it will be very, very difficult to get through all of the material. And one of the things that you're going to start experiencing when you actually sit down and start doing your practice questions, whether it's regardless of when you do it, is you're going to sit there and go, oh my God, I don't know everything. And your reaction is going to be to kind of quickly go through everything, which leaves you in mediocre land on all of the questions. And this is if you're getting stuck on quizzes and you're in the high 60s, low 70s, or you're the mid 60s and you're kind of getting stuck, it's because you really genuinely have a mediocre understanding of most topics. Where when the difficulty goes up, or the question changes, or the wording changes, you're starting to get one right, one wrong, one right, one wrong, one right, one wrong. And this is like one of the most maddening parts of taking this exam. I think that you're not going to get to know everything. My suggestion to clients and to students has always been if we look at 10 topics, know 7 topics really, 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 really well, inside out. So any 10 topics, right? And if you look at the CFP's breakdown, they'll break down most of the core topics from general principles to estate planning into 10 subtopics. Know 7 of those 10 extraordinarily well. Let 3 go. Because if we think about it, when you actually end up getting to the exam, if we take any 10 question block and you know 7 of those questions well, you'll probably answer all
You'll
7 questions correct.
and that's is that the passing number? I mean, I know we technically don't know what it is, but it's
Well,
around
the
70, right?
yeah, I think the president of the CFP came out and said it was roughly 65, but I still
Oh,
think
really?
everybody
That's good
should.
to know. I wish I knew that. I wouldn't have studied as hard. I wouldn't have studied for a 70. I would have studied for a 65.
I think it's really somewhere between a 65 and 70 because looking at the
And
way that it gets graded, it still feels 70-ish to me.
that's what I think it's around a 70. And like
Right.
I actually now that you're saying that, because there was a point where I was like, I feel like I got like a 67 or 68 on this. Like that's what I realistically thought
Right.
I got. But if you're saying that it's between those two numbers, then it makes a little more sense. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it's arbitrary too, as
Right,
well.
but and I think it probably changes exam to exam where they might set something a little
And
higher
they
and
curve
sometimes a
it.
little lower
Right,
or they
right,
curve it.
right.
And that's why they have a difference between your preliminary and then, your final analysis, right?
Right, right.
And so when you look at it and you say, you've seen people pass 5 out of 8 topics and fail the exam where they'll go green in 5 out of 8 topics, you know, that probably puts you somewhere around a 63, 64, maybe a 65. And that's why I think you really got to be above that and
Yeah.
train above that.
I agree.
But let's pretend there's 10 questions. I know 7 questions really well. I get all 7 questions correct.
You're good.
Questions 8, 9, and 10, even if I get them wrong, completely guess through them. And for the most part, you're not going to be guessing through. You might be guessing on one of the 10,
Right.
but for the other two, you might be making more of a informed guess.
Totally.
Okay.
It's not a straight dart throw.
Right. It's not out of the question that you get one of those three correct.
Totally.
Right. Or even in a 20 question block, if we extrapolate it out and say, okay, maybe you're getting only one additional, but again, in 20 questions, if you're getting 7 and 7, and then another, just one of those 6 questions, that's 15 out of 20 questions, which is 75%. So you still put yourself in a pretty good position to be somewhere between 70 and 80 by knowing 7 topics really, really well and hyper focusing on them. Because the place that you don't want to be is to be mediocre, because when you're mediocre, the exam can push you in any direction that it wants. I can rewrite a question, and I've seen this with students. I write a question one way, they answer it one way. I write a question another way, they answer the other way. I write, and then you can see the difference where students who really understand and go, it doesn't matter. Like, isn't this? That doesn't even look like the right statement, and you can pull that out. And you can tell the difference between somebody who really understands the concept versus somebody who's just been doing enough practice questions to pick up enough information to be dangerous. It's not good enough to be dangerous on this exam. You got
No.
to be solid on at least 7 of 10 topics.
Yeah. And to your point, just to talk about the actual strategy of passing the exam, you have 10 questions, you solidly know seven, where like you're very confident you're going to get those seven right, regardless of how they ask the question, by the way.
Yep.
And you got three, and like honestly, even if you literally guess on all three of them and get all three of them wrong, which is, I think, unlikely. I think the chances are you'll probably get at least one of them right
Yep.
if you guess. You're in very good shape to pass the exam.
Right.
If you're like, oh, well, actually, I know all 10 topics these 10 questions, I know all the topics kind of well, there's a chance, albeit a small chance, but there's a chance you get every single one wrong. And all right, maybe you get a few right, but you're more likely to get two or three right than you are going to be getting enough right to pass the exam.
Yeah. You're more likely to get 3 right than 7 or 8.
You're more likely to get three or zero than you are to get a passing number. Whereas the other way, pretty much guaranteeing you're getting at least seven right, and
Right.
maybe more.
Yeah. And if you're sitting there looking at your CFP results and you have, 2 sections right, 3 sections right, you're probably in that boat. Even at 4 sections, at 5, you're starting to kind of get to know the information. You're on the cusp of knowing it.
Yeah.
But anything really 4 and under, there is a disconnect between the material and the way it's being asked. And you're sitting there going, I thought I knew the material until I got to the test and they started asking it, or the question was really long. I couldn't pick it out. That points that you don't know that concept well enough,
Hmm.
period. And you gotta be, that means you can have 30% of the exam that you skim over and still pass, right? If what the CFP president is saying is accurate, and let's just assume, let's add 5 points to it. This strategy is going to save your butt, because basically that says take almost a third of the material and know it at best mediocre.
Yeah.
But that's those 7 topics. You
Know
got
them cold.
know them. Like, I should be able to wake you out of a dead cold sleep, and you should be able to do time value of money, financial metrics, know what SIPC and FDIC insurance are, understand bankruptcy laws, understand how to do an education calculation. You don't even have to do anything else in GPP.
You just named like all the easiest stuff too. I thought you were like, you should know what an A, B, and C trust is.
Right,
All the insurance,
but like
what the HO numbers are.
right, but if
No,
you look
but the
at
concept holds.
right,
Yeah.
if you know any like I always start at the bottom and work my way up because why kill myself with the hard questions
No.
when I should really understand the fundamentals and the medium level stuff first? And
Yeah.
that's something that we're going to talk about later. But why kill myself on that? That's going to give me one or two questions per topic on the exam. You're looking
Yeah.
at 12 to 14 questions
Yeah.
versus focusing on the 135 questions.
No, for sure. I was just messing around.
Yeah.
But
Well, I got
yeah.
to let the people know, you know what I mean?
No, you got yeah, exactly.
But I think that is where your focus has to be. And I think this was a game changing strategy when I first introduced it. And obviously, I did this in class first where, everybody has this question about week two of the classes. There's so much information. I'm so overwhelmed. What do I focus on? Pick seven things, know them inside out. You don't review them with your flashcards, do your drills, redo your worksheets, redo, and then obviously you're going to do your practice questions on it. But there's multiple avenues to test that and to understand it. So should we end there?
Yeah.
As always, everybody, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel. And obviously, with any questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to reach out to David or myself, and we will see you guys on the next episode.